Most brides dread rain on their wedding day. I watched my parents enter my reception dressed head to toe in black, as though they were attending my funeral. 150 guests swiveled to stare. The murmurs began before my mother even approached the microphone. She didn't wait for permission. She strode directly to the stage, plucked the mic from the DJ's grasp, and fixed her eyes on me. "We are mourning the daughter we've lost." What followed made my hands tremble. But what my husband did next is the moment no one in that room will ever erase from memory. Before I continue, if this story resonates with you, please like and subscribe, only if it truly touches you. Drop your city and local time in the comments below. I love seeing where everyone is tuning in from. I'm Wanda, 29 years old, and this is the story of how my own family tried to steal from me on my wedding day. Let me take you back 18 months to the afternoon I wrote the check that altered everything. I grew up in Mon Hills, Tennessee, a small town of 4,000 souls, one traffic light, where everyone knows your news before you do, and the church parking lot serves as Sunday's gossip hub. In the Mosley home, two daughters existed. Belle was the star. I was the shadow. My sister entered any space and claimed every gaze. Golden hair, effortless laugh, a voice that turned strangers into instant friends. Our parents, Janet and Bobby Mosley, constructed their entire world around her. Dance recitals, homecoming courts, church talent nights. If Belle so much as exhaled, applause followed. I was quieter, more constant. Straight A's through school, register duty at the farm supply store starting at 16, dinner on the table when Mom ferried Belle to endless rehearsals. None of it earned a spot on display. Literally, our refrigerator door was a shrine to Belle. Photos, ribbons, prom shots, a local paper clipping from her Miss Macon Hills teen victory. My lone contribution? One small picture tucked in the bottom corner, half obscured by the church calendar. Once I pinned my honor roll certificate front and center. By morning, it vanished, folded away in the junk drawer. I stayed silent. That's what happens when you grow up unseen. Eventually, you stop hoping to be noticed. Your sister has a real gift for connecting with people, Wanda. You're more the behind-the-scenes type. My mother delivered that verdict at Christmas dinner, 17 years old, 12 relatives around the table. They all nodded as if she'd paid me a compliment. I smiled, cleared dishes, and pretended it didn't sting. It stung deeply. 11 years later, at 27, I lived in a modest apartment across town, pulling double shifts as a veterinary technician at the county animal clinic. I adore animals. They never choose favorites. One Tuesday evening, my phone rang. "Wanda, it's Mom. Come home. It's urgent." The house was crumbling, roof leaking in 3 spots, foundation splitting along the east side, 1979 plumbing that had already burst twice in 6 months. Dad's pension and Mom's occasional bookkeeping barely covered food. A complete overhaul was impossible without help. We held a family meeting. Mom presided at the kitchen table, Dad beside her, hands clasped. I sat opposite. Belle was absent. She'd texted the group chat earlier. "Sorry, swamped, handle it." So I handled it. $85,000, 10 years of extra shifts, no vacations, dollar store shampoo. I delivered it as one cashier's check. New roof, reinforced foundation, updated plumbing, fresh interior and exterior paint. I managed the contractors, drove over every weekend to inspect, ate peanut butter sandwiches in my car shuttling between clinic and site. When finished, the house looked decades younger. On the front porch, Mom hugged me, eyes glistening. "This house is yours, Wanda. When we're gone, it belongs to you. You earned it." Dad echoed, "You earned it, kiddo." No documents, no deed, no lawyer, just a blood-tied promise. The costliest handshake I ever made. I had no idea. 3 months post-renovation, a soffit section on the back porch detached. The old crew had skimped. Mom called in a panic. I found a fast, reliable contractor. That's how Cole Reston entered my life. He arrived in a battered white pickup, work boots, sleeves rolled on his flannel, hands rough as sandpaper. He spoke perhaps 40 words in the first hour, but each one hit precisely right.
He repaired the soffit in one afternoon. I carried out iced tea. We sat on his tailgate, mostly quiet, watching the sun sink behind the trees. It was the easiest silence I'd ever known with anyone. We began dating 2 weeks later. The first time Cole joined us for dinner at my parents' house, the air chilled the instant he stepped inside. Mom eyed his calloused palms, worn jeans, the truck in the drive. "So, what exactly do you do?" she asked, stretching "do" into 3 drawn-out syllables. Cole met her gaze evenly. "General contracting, residential mostly." That was all she offered. Dad studied his plate. Belle was visiting that week. She smiled brightly at Cole. How fun! But later, through the thin walls of my childhood bedroom, I overheard her on the phone with Mom. "He seems okay, but is that really the best she can do?" I lay in the dark, staring upward. Cole slept unawares in the guest room below, oblivious that this household had already judged him unworthy, just as they had judged me. 6 months after the renovation, I stopped by on a Saturday to retrieve old textbooks from my closet. The closet was bare. Not just books, everything. Posters, yearbooks, the quilt Grandma Davis sewed for my 12th birthday, all boxed in the garage. My room had been transformed. Fresh lavender paint, Belle's favorite, new pillows, unfamiliar vanity, eucalyptus misting from a diffuser where my vanilla candle once stood. "Mom, can we discuss the house, what you and Dad promised?" Dad stood frozen in the kitchen doorway, coffee mid-lift. He heard. Mom laid her pen down. "We'll sort it when the time comes. Don't push." Pushy? I gave $85,000. "We're grateful, but this remains our home. Don't create tension." Dad said nothing. He simply carried his coffee to the porch. I drove away with windows open, hoping the wind would loosen the knot inside. It didn't. Cole waited at my apartment. One glance at my expression. "You okay?" "I don't know anymore." He didn't press. He grilled cheese sandwiches and stayed close until I drifted off on the couch. I should have trusted that instinct because the hardest chapter was still ahead. Cole proposed on a Sunday morning. No ring at first, just Cole standing in my small kitchen, 2 mugs of coffee in his hands, saying quietly, "I want to build something real with you, not just houses." I said yes before the words left his mouth completely. I phoned Mom that afternoon, a silent stretch so long I thought the call had failed. "Already?" she finally said. Then, "Well, congratulations, I suppose." No questions about a ring, no curiosity about a date. 1 week later, Belle arrived home without warning. She stayed 5 days. Shopping excursions with Mom, cooking alongside Dad, brunch at the Main Street Cafe. I saw the pictures on Facebook. I wasn't invited, but the exclusion wasn't the real wound. My friend Darla, who works the post office counter and hears every whisper that crosses Mon Hills, called me Wednesday evening. "Hey, so Belle's been saying things about Cole. Told Patty Morrison and half the ladies at the salon that he pressured you to pay for the house repairs because he's after the property." I sank onto the edge of the bed. "That's not true." "I know, honey, but she delivered it like she was genuinely worried for you. Very convincing." I ended the call and stared at the wall. My sister had moved from private sniping to public sabotage in a town where a single salon rumor reaches every supper table by Sunday. Worse, she'd wrapped it in fake concern. "Between us," Darla added, "she said she thinks he's isolating you, that you used to be so independent." Belle had rehearsed the lines word for word. 2 weeks later, Mom called. No greeting, no "how are you," just ice in her voice, sharp and final. "Your father and I have been discussing it. Maybe the house should go to Belle. She's struggling right now, Wanda. You have Cole." My knuckles blanched around the phone. "Mom, I put $85,000 into that house. That was for our family. Don't throw it in our faces. It was a gift." A gift. 10 years of sacrifice reframed so they could redirect the benefit to the daughter who'd once texted, "You guys figure it out," while I signed the check. I tried once more. "You and Dad promised." Promises change. Circumstances change. Belle needs security, and honestly, with Cole in the picture, I'm not convinced your priorities are right. There it was, not only the house, not only the money, she was wielding Belle's fabricated story about Cole as the excuse. That night, Dad called separately. His voice came low, weary. "Just let it go, kiddo. Your mom's decided. And you?" Long silence. "I don't want to lose anyone." "You already are, Dad." He ended the call first. In the dark, I ran the numbers. $85,000. No paperwork, no contract, no witnesses beyond a promise made across the kitchen table. Silence meant losing every dollar. Belle would list the house the instant the deed transferred, and my parents would never concede they'd been mistaken. Fighting meant losing them forever. I chose silence, not from fear, but because I hadn't yet grasped how far they would push. Cole found me at the kitchen table past midnight, eyes fixed on the laptop screen where the $85,000 transfer glowed yellow, dated 22 months earlier. He drew up a chair, studied the statement, then me. "Tell me everything." So I did. Mom's ultimatum, Dad's surrender, Belle's rumor mill, the lavender bedroom, every detail. He listened without a single interruption. When I finished, his jaw was set, but his tone stayed level. "Do you still have the renovation receipts, bank transfers?" I nodded. "Every email, every invoice, statements, right here." "The contractor, Greg Holloway, would he remember?" "I called him weekly for 4 months. He'd remember." Cole leaned back, arms crossed, thinking. Not raging, not pitying, simply calculating, the way he read blueprints for structures yet to rise. "Good. Screenshot everything. Save copies somewhere secure, not just email. And Wanda, don't confront them. Not yet." "What are you planning?" He met my eyes, calm and certain. "I'm not letting them take what's yours, but we handle this the smart way." He squeezed my hand once, rinsed his mug, and went to bed, as though it were any ordinary night. It wasn't. From that evening onward, I noticed Cole spending an extra hour at his laptop after dinner. He offered no explanation. I asked for none. I trusted him completely, and that trust proved to be the wisest choice I ever made. We scheduled the wedding for June 14th. Modest budget, no parental help. Cole and I covered every expense ourselves. A barn just outside town, a local caterer, wildflowers from the farmer's market. Simple. Ours. Mom stated her stance plainly early on. "I'm not paying for a wedding to a man I don't approve of." "I didn't ask you to," I replied. She hung up. I braced for the cold silence. What arrived instead was a Facebook post the following Saturday. Mom and Belle side by side in a Nashville bridal boutique. Belle holding a white gown to her frame, Mom radiant. Caption, Mother-Daughter Day. Belle wasn't engaged. She didn't even have a boyfriend Mom knew of. My phone lit with messages. "Kenna, are you seeing this?" I stared at the image. 47 likes, comments, "So gorgeous, can't wait for the big day, lucky mama." No one questioned whose wedding they were shopping for. In her Mosley family, only one daughter merited celebration. I didn't comment. I didn't react. I turned my phone face down and returned to hand addressing our invitations. That night, sleep refused me. I lay replaying the photo, Mom's smile, her arm around Belle as though she were the bride, as though I had never existed. Cole rolled toward me. "You're thinking too loud." "Sorry." "Don't be. Just remember, people who need an audience to feel strong always crave a bigger one next time." I didn't fully grasp his meaning. Not until the wedding day. 3 weeks before the ceremony, I drove to my parents' house to collect the last items from the garage. An old lamp, winter coats, Grandma Davis's box of Christmas ornaments. Belle's car sat in the driveway. I nearly turned back, but the belongings were mine, and I was finished orbiting her convenience. The garage side door stood unlocked. I stepped inside, located my box, began loading it into the trunk. Then her voice floated down from the open window above, crisp and unguarded. Belle on FaceTime, laughing. Once I get that house, I'm listing it. Travis and I pulled the comps. Easy 450. I froze, hand on the box, pulse hammering in my throat. A man's voice, tinny through the speaker. Your parents still don't know about me? Not yet. I'll bring you in after the house is settled. One bomb at a time, babe. Laughter from both. Then Belle's words, the sentence that rewrote the last 2 years of my life. I told them Cole was only with Wanda for the property. They swallowed it whole. Honestly, it was too easy. A beat. Wanda's an idiot for pouring 85 grand into a house she'll never own. I stood frozen in that garage, hands trembling, Grandma's ornament box pressed tight against my chest like a shield. My heartbeat thundered in my ears. Every fiber screamed to charge upstairs, to hurl her words back at her while they still rang in the air. I didn't. I eased the box down, walked to my car, and drove home without a sound. That restraint turned out to be the wisest choice I ever made. I reached the kitchen table before the dam broke. Not loud sobs, just silent tears sliding down while I clutched the table edge as though it might drift away. Cole stepped in from the yard, set his water bottle aside without a word, pulled a chair close, and waited. I told him everything I'd overheard. Belle on FaceTime, the listing plan, the secret boyfriend, the casual claim that Cole wanted only the property. When I reached the part where she called me an idiot for pouring $85,000 into a house I'd never own, my voice fractured, not from the insult itself, but from the sudden, crushing understanding that my parents had reshaped their view of the man I loved based on a lie my sister spun to a stranger they didn't even know existed. Cole never raised his voice or struck the table. He sat motionless and asked one question. "Did you record it?" I shook my head. "Next time, keep your phone recording, just in case." He fell quiet, then said, "They're planning something for the wedding. I can feel it. Let me take care of the slideshow setup." I blinked. The slideshow? I'd told the DJ I would assemble a photo reel for the reception. "Let me handle it," he repeated. It sounded minor, a groom volunteering for a simple task, but the way he spoke, measured and deliberate, like a carpenter squaring a board twice before the cut, told me it carried far more weight. If they wanted to create a spectacle, we would let them, and then we would ensure every guest saw the real story. I didn't press for details. Cole never made empty promises. Whatever he was constructing, I would witness it when it was finished. Okay, I need to pause here. Looking back, I know some of you are wondering, why didn't you cut them off right then and there? I asked myself the same question. But when it's your parents, the ones who raised you, drove you to school, stayed up with you through fevers, walking away isn't as clean cut as it looks from the outside. So let me ask you, if you overheard your siblings say those exact things about you, calling you an idiot, plotting to sell your investment out from under you, what would your next step be? Drop it in the comments. Now, back to what unfolded, because it only grew darker. Cole never explained his plan. He simply acted. Over the following 2 weeks, I caught fragments. His laptop glowing on the kitchen counter at dawn, a new manila folder appearing on his desk, a low-voiced call taken on the porch out of earshot. One evening, after my shower, I found him at the table surrounded by my bank statements, arranged in precise rows, highlighted, annotated. "Those are my transfers to Greg Holloway," I said. "Every single one. 8 payments across 4 months, $85,247 total." He didn't lift his eyes. I also printed the full email thread with Greg, every invoice, every work order. "Cole, what are you—" "I spoke with a real estate attorney today, Mitchell Farrow, out of Cookville." I sat. "A lawyer?" "Just a conversation." His tone stayed even, the way he might note that a roof needed new flashing. He said if you made a substantial, documented, traceable contribution to the property and they attempt to deny you any interest, you have a solid claim for unjust enrichment. Tennessee law recognizes it. "I'm not trying to take their house, Cole." "I know. Neither am I." He met my gaze then. "But if they try to take what's yours on our wedding day, I want the truth prepared." He lifted a small black USB drive. "Slideshow backup." he said, and tucked it into his shirt pocket. I watched him collate the papers, finish his coffee, rinse the mug, as though the evening were ordinary. I had no idea what lived on that drive, not yet. I wouldn't learn until the wedding night. 2 weeks before the ceremony, I drove to my parents' house to return a baking dish Mom had left at our place months earlier, a 5-minute drop-off. I didn't call ahead. Perhaps I should have. The front door stood unlocked. I stepped through the foyer, dish in hand, and rounded into the kitchen. There they were, all three: Mom, Dad, Belle. Papers fanned across the table. A pen rested in Mom's fingers. Dad's reading glasses perched low. The instant I appeared, their voices died. Not a lull, a complete cutoff, as if someone had muted the room. Belle's hand darted, flipping a page face down. Mom's eyes flicked to the hidden sheet, then to me. "Wanda, we didn't hear you come in. Returning your dish." I lifted it. "Oh, thank you." Mom's smile stretched thin, rehearsed. I set the dish on the counter. My gaze swept the table before I could stop it. Most pages were concealed, but one corner of Belle's flipped sheet remained visible. 4 bold letters. Quit, D. I didn't need the rest. Quitclaim deed. "Just going over some boring bills," Mom said, already gathering the stack. "Of course." I forced a smile. "I'll get out of your way." I walked out at normal pace. No running, no accusations. In the car, I opened my phone and typed 2 words into the search bar: quitclaim deed. A document that transfers property interest without sale or warranty, only a signature required. They weren't merely discussing the house anymore, they were preparing the paperwork. 1 week before the wedding, a Tuesday afternoon, I was home folding laundry when the doorbell rang. Belle stood on the porch in a crisp linen sundress, hair curled, smile bright as if delivering a welcome casserole. "Hey sis, got a minute?" She entered before I answered, sat at the kitchen table, drew a single sheet from her bag, and slid it toward me. The header read, "Acknowledgement of gift." 1 paragraph, simple language. I, Wanda Mosley, acknowledge that my $85,000 contribution to the renovation of the Mosley family home was a voluntary, unconditional gift made without expectation of repayment or claim to ownership. Signature line below, my name pre-printed. "It's just a formality," Belle said, head tilted, eyes gentle. I read it twice, every line. Then I folded the paper, placed it on the table, and looked straight at her. "I'm not signing this, Belle." The softness in her expression flickered, just a half second of something sharp and cold behind the smile. Then the mask returned. "Fine, we'll talk later." She stood, collected her bag, and headed for the door. "See you at the wedding." She left the document behind. Whether by accident or design, I'll never know. 20 minutes later, Cole came home, saw the paper, and photographed every side in detail. Then he slipped it into the manila folder without comment. I didn't spend 10 years saving to surrender it in 10 seconds. That's what I whispered to the empty kitchen after Belle walked out. June 14th, my wedding day. Kenna laced the back of my dress in the bridal suite, a converted tack room lit softly, a full-length mirror leaning against a weathered barn beam. Simple white gown, no train, red lipstick, my grandmother's pearl earrings I'd guarded in a velvet pouch since 19. "You look incredible," Kenna said. "I feel like I might be sick." "That's normal, also incredible." The venue was a restored barn 20 minutes outside Mon Hills, string lights strung across the rafters, long wooden farm tables, mason jars brimming with wildflowers Cole had gathered at dawn. 150 guests, my animal clinic coworkers, Cole's contracting crew, neighbors, old friends, a handful of his Knoxville cousins. The ceremony unfolded outdoors beneath a sprawling oak. When I rounded the corner and saw Cole at the altar in charcoal gray, his eyes welled before I reached him. He blinked hard, bit his lip, took my hands as though he'd been waiting his whole life to hold them. Then Kenna touched my arm. "Wanda," her voice came tight, strained. "You need to see this." I turned. Through the barn's side window, the parking lot came into view. A silver sedan had just parked. The door opened. Mom stepped out, head to toe in black, long black dress, black cardigan, black shoes, funeral attire. Behind her, Dad in a black suit, black tie, black expression. Then Belle, also black, a fitted dress and heels, sunglasses perched atop her head. 3 figures dressed for a burial advancing toward my wedding. "Say the word and I'll lock that door," Kenna whispered. I didn't say it. I wish I had. I didn't lock the door. I didn't halt the ceremony. I did what I'd always done in the Mosley family. I carried on. They claimed the front row, black stark against a pastel and floral sea. 150 guests noticed. No one spoke. Cole's Aunt Margene leaned to her husband, whispering behind her program. From the altar, I read her lips. "Is someone dead?" The officiant continued. I stood. My hands rested in Cole's, his thumbs pressed steady into my palms whenever a tremor started. During the vows, Cole departed from the script. Just one line. "I will always protect what's ours. Not yours, not mine, ours." He held my gaze as he said it, but I saw Mom shift, Belle fold her arms, Dad stare at his shoes. We kissed. The crowd erupted, cheers, whistles. Kenna ugly cried into a handkerchief. Everyone rose. Everyone except the 3 in front. Mom sat rigid, hands knotted in her lap, black dress sharp against the white chair. Belle wore a small, knowing smile. Not joyful, the smile of someone holding a secret advantage. Dad looked simply exhausted, like a man long ago instructed where to sit and what to wear, who'd quit asking why. I told myself it was over. They'd made their statement. Black clothes, front row, stone faces. Fine, let them mourn. I was alive, married, standing in sunlight. I refused to follow them into shadow. But they weren't finished. The reception began perfectly. String lights glowed, first dance. Cole spun me slowly beneath a canopy of Edison bulbs, while guests clinked glasses and caterers arranged plates. Then the DJ tapped the mic. "We'd love to open the floor for toasts." He never finished. Mom was already crossing the dance floor in 4 determined strides. She took the microphone from the DJ's hand, not snatched, the firmly enough that surprise made him release it. She turned to face the room. 150 people fell silent. "I want everyone here to know we are in mourning tonight." A murmur swept the tables. "We are losing our daughter to a man who married her for our family home." My lungs seized. My chest turned to concrete. She pressed on. "Wanda, if you have any love left for this family, sign the document right now releasing any claim to our house. Your sister needs that home, not some outsider." She pointed at Cole, at my husband, the man who 30 minutes earlier had promised me forever beneath an oak tree. Dad rose beside her, silent, a wordless pillar of support. Then Belle stood. She reached into her bag, withdrew the same document she'd brought to my apartment, the acknowledgement of gift, held it high for the room to see, and walked toward me. She placed it on the table before me, set a pen on top, and smiled. Not nervous, not sheepish, the calm, victorious smile of someone who believed the game was already won. Silence pressed in, thick and heavy, shrinking the barn. 150 pairs of eyes fixed on me, the bride in white at her own wedding table, a legal document and pen laid before her like a sentence. Belle leaned close enough for her perfume to reach me. "Just sign it. It was never yours anyway." I looked at the paper, the pen, Belle's serene certainty, then at my parents, Mom gripping the mic like a gavel, Dad standing hollow-eyed. 2 people I had fed, cared for, poured every saved dollar into, now staring at me with resentment. My hand stayed flat on the table. I didn't lift the pen. I didn't cry. Kenna was on her feet, jaw set, fists balled, ready to lunge. She was about to speak words she'd regret for me, and I loved her for it. But a gentle hand settled on her shoulder. Cole. He rose beside me, unhurried, buttoned his suit jacket, one button, the way he always did, gave me a single look, steady eyes, small nod. The message was clear. I've got this. Then he walked, past the dance floor, past the bar, straight to the DJ booth where his laptop fed the projector screen. He picked up the remote. 150 people watched my husband aim a small black remote at the glowing white screen. No one, not even I, knew what would appear. All right, I need to be honest here. This is the moment I've replayed 1,000 times. When Belle set that pen before me, part of me almost reached for it, not because she was right, but because I wanted the humiliation to end. 150 people witnessing your lowest moment carries a weight words can't capture. So tell me, if you were in that chair, in your wedding dress, every eye on you, would you have signed it or would you have waited? Drop your answer in the comments. What happened next is exactly why I'm grateful I never touched that pen. Cole didn't hurry. He set the remote on the DJ table, leaned toward the laptop, and clicked twice. The projector screen, cycling wedding photos all evening, went black for one heartbeat.
Then the screen flared back to life. The first image wasn't one of us smiling, it was my bank statement. A highlighted wire transfer. $85,000, dated 22 months earlier, sent straight to Holloway Construction LLC. Memo line clear. Mosley family home, full renovation. Murmurs erupted at once. Heads swiveled, phones lifted. Cole said nothing. He simply clicked the remote. Next slide. The printed email thread between me and Greg Holloway. 4 months of invoices, material breakdowns, progress shots. Final entry, total project cost $85,247, paid in full by Wanda Mosley. I watched Mom's hand ease the microphone downward. Belle's confident smile flickered, then faded like a bulb losing power. Cole clicked again. Before and after photos appeared side by side. The sagging porch versus the sturdy rebuild. The fractured foundation next to the reinforced one. Corroded pipes beside bright new copper. Each pair captioned, "Funded by Wanda Mosley." The room had stopped whispering. Guests leaned in, eyes scanning every line on the giant screen as though it were evidence in open court. Cole's Aunt Margene pressed a hand to her mouth. But the money wasn't the blow that broke them. Cole glanced across the room at me, one steady nod, then advanced the slide. Text messages filled the screen, screenshots enlarged to 6 feet wide. My pulse stopped. First one, iMessage thread. Contact name at the top, Travis Keene. Belle's outgoing messages in blue. Belle. Mom and Dad are so gullible, LOL. I told them Cole is only with Wanda for the house. They bought it immediately. A low, collective exhale rolled through the barn. Not a gasp, but the sound of air leaving every set of lungs at once. Cole clicked. Belle. Once I get that house, I'm listing it. Travis and I checked. Easy $450,000. Chairs scraped. Someone at the rear table stood for a clearer view. Another click. Belle. Wanda's an idiot for paying $85,000 into a house she'll never own. Dead quiet. Then Paula, from the clinic, table 9, spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. Oh my God! One final slide. A crisp photograph of the acknowledgement of gift document, the very one Belle had slid across my kitchen table minutes earlier, pen on top, smile in place. The text was legible to every guest, a request for me to declare my $85,000 a voluntary, unconditional gift with no claim to ownership. Cole turned from the screen and faced my family. His voice carried, calm, even, unhurried. That's who told you your daughter's fiancé was a gold digger. Your other daughter. Mom spun toward Belle. Belle opened her mouth. No sound emerged. The pen still rested on the table in front of me. I hadn't touched it. The barn seemed to crack open. Aunt Margene's voice floated from table 4. Lord have mercy. Then the sound rose. Not shouts, just the swelling hum of 150 people absorbing the same betrayal simultaneously. Whispers turned to full sentences. Sentences became open talk. Heads shook, eyes widened, phones glowed beneath tables. Belle moved first.
She grabbed her bag, clutched it to her chest like armor, and strode for the exit. Her heels struck the wooden floor in sharp, uneven clacks. She nearly stumbled at the threshold. Mom remained rooted at the microphone, still live, broadcasting her rapid, shallow breaths across every speaker. "Bobby," she said, voice fracturing. "Bobby, say something." Dad didn't speak. He shook his head once, slowly. Then he took her elbow, neither tender nor rough, simply mechanical, and guided her toward the door. "We need to go. Now." Mom's heels clicked across the floor. The microphone slipped from her fingers and struck the stage with a dull, echoing thud. She didn't retrieve it. The barn door swung open. Warm June night air poured in. 3 black figures vanished into the parking lot. An engine turned over. Headlights swept the windows. Then they were gone. Silence held for perhaps 4 seconds. Cole walked back to our table, sat beside me, and took my hand beneath the tablecloth. He faced the room. Same quiet tone. "Sorry for the interruption, folks. Bar's still open." Laughter began at table 6 and rolled outward like a wave. Then applause. Then Kenna, sobbing into her champagne, raising her glass. I didn't cry, not from strength, but because I was finally free. We danced until midnight. The caterers ran out of pulled pork. Kenna delivered a toast that left every woman in the room in tears, including herself, twice. 2 of Cole's cousins launched a line dance that stretched 6 songs. No one mentioned my parents for the rest of the night. Not allowed, anyway. The next morning, Cole and I sat across from Mitchell Farrow in his Cookville office. Wood-paneled walls, ceiling fan turning overhead, a man who looked as though he'd practiced law since before my birth. He reviewed the folder. Bank statements, email chains, contractor invoices, before and after photos, the screenshot of the acknowledgement of gifts document. The very one Belle had slid across my kitchen table minutes earlier. Pen on top, swile in place. The text was legible to every guest. A request for me to declare my $85,000 a voluntary, unconditional gift with no claim to ownership. Cole turned from the screen and faced my family. His voice carried, calm, even, unhurried. "That's who told you your daughter's fiancé was a gold digger. Your other daughter." Mom spun toward Belle. Belle opened her mouth. No sound emerged. The pen still rested on the table in front of me. I hadn't touched it. The barn seemed to crack open. Aunt Marjean's voice floated from table 4. "Lord have mercy." Then the sound rose. Not shouts, just the swelling hum of 150 people absorbing the same betrayal simultaneously. Whispers turned to full sentences. Sentences became open talk. Heads shook, eyes widened, phones glowed beneath tables. Belle moved first. She grabbed her bag, clutched it to her chest like armor, and strode for the exit. Her heels struck the wooden floor in sharp, uneven clacks. She nearly stumbled at the threshold. Mom remained rooted at the microphone, still live, broadcasting her rapid, shallow breaths across every speaker. "Bobby," she said, voice fracturing. "Bobby, say something." Dad didn't speak. He shook his head once, slowly. Then he took her elbow, neither tender nor rough, simply mechanical, and guided her toward the door. "We need to go. Now." Mom's heels clicked across the floor. The microphone slipped from her fingers and struck the stage with a dull, echoing thud. She didn't retrieve it. The barn door swung open. Warm June night air poured in. 3 black figures vanished into the parking lot. An engine turned over. Headlights swept the windows. Then they were gone. Silence held for perhaps 4 seconds. Cole walked back to our table, sat beside me, and took my hand beneath the tablecloth. He faced the room. Same quiet tone. "Sorry for the interruption, folks. Bar's still open." Laughter began at table 6 and rolled outward like a wave. Then applause. Then Kenna, sobbing into her champagne, raising her glass. I didn't cry, not from strength, but because I was finally free. We danced until midnight. The caterers ran out of pulled pork. Kenna delivered a toast that left every woman in the room in tears, including herself, twice. Two of Cole's cousins launched a line dance that stretched 6 songs. No one mentioned my parents for the rest of the night. Not allowed, anyway. The next morning, Cole and I sat across from Mitchell Farrow in his Cookville office. Wood-paneled walls, ceiling fan turning overhead. A man who looked as though he'd practiced law since before my birth. He reviewed the folder. Bank statements, email chains, contractor invoices, before and after photos, the screenshot of the acknowledgement of gift document. The very one Belle had slid across my kitchen table minutes earlier, pen on top, smile in place. The text was legible to every guest, a request for me to declare my $85,000 a voluntary, unconditional gift with no claim to ownership. Cole turned from the screen and faced my family. His voice carried, calm, even, unhurried. That's who told you your daughter's fiancé was a gold digger. Your other daughter. Mom spun toward Belle. Belle opened her mouth. No sound emerged. The pen still rested on the table in front of me. I hadn't touched it. The barn seemed to crack open. Aunt Marjean's voice floated for table 4. Lord have mercy. Then the sound rose. Not shouts, just the swelling hum of 150 people absorbing the same betrayal simultaneously. Whispers turned to full sentences. Sentences became open talk. Heads shook, eyes widened, phones glowed beneath tables. Belle moved first. She grabbed her bag, clutched it to her chest like armor, and strode for the exit. Her heels struck the wooden floor in sharp, uneven clacks. She nearly stumbled at the threshold. Mom remained rooted at the microphone, still live, broadcasting her rapid, shallow breaths across every speaker. "Bobby," she said, voice fracturing. "Bobby, say something." Dad didn't speak. He shook his head once, slowly. For once, she had no reply ready. "Goodbye, Mom." I ended the call, turned the phone face down, poured a glass of water, and stood at the kitchen window. Outside, Cole was mowing the lawn next door for our elderly neighbor. Even when everything around us had been ablaze, that man mowed lawns. 2 days later, a text from Dad arrived. 5 words only. "I should have spoken up then. I'm sorry." I read it 3 times, sat with it a long while, turning those words in my mind like something delicate and easily broken. I started 4 different replies and erased them all. I wasn't ready, not yet. Forgiveness isn't a switch, it's a path. I hadn't decided whether I wanted to set foot on it. But I didn't delete the message. That was progress. In a place like Mon Hills, news doesn't need the internet to spread. One church potluck is enough. Within a week, the whole town knew. The vet clinic receptionist, the hardware store clerk, the teller at First Tennessee Credit Union, they'd either witnessed the wedding or heard it secondhand from someone who had. Belle worked at Pennington Realty, a small Main Street brokerage owned by Gail Pennington. Gail had sat at table 7 that night, Merlot in hand, jaw smack as the slideshow played. Monday morning, she summoned Belle into her office and shut the door. "I saw those texts, Belle. Every guest at that wedding saw them." "Gail, I can explain." "I sell houses on trust. I can't have someone with that kind of judgment representing my listings." Belle was gone by afternoon. Then Travis, the hidden boyfriend, the one poised to split the $450,000 windfall, disappeared. Blocked her everywhere. Phone, Instagram, Facebook. Calls went unanswered. Texts turned to blue bubbles with no reply. That's the nature of people who show up only for the profit. When the profit evaporates, so do they. A few days later, Kenna forwarded a screenshot. Belle had posted an old barbecue photo of us, 2 girls in sunlight, arms around each other, with the caption, "Sisters forever, so grateful for family." "She's doing damage control," Kenna said. I studied the image. I hardly recognized either of us. I didn't reply, didn't repost, didn't comment. Some things don't deserve a response. They deserve a boundary. 6 weeks after the wedding, Mitchell Farrow called. They've agreed to settle. I pulled to the roadside shoulder, still in scrubs, dog hair clinging to my sleeve after a long shift at the clinic. "What are the terms?" "Full repayment, $85,000 over 36 months, equal installments. You'll hold a lien on the property until the balance clears. Standard protection. The house remains in their name. This was never about ownership, and the agreement makes that clear. I leaned my head against the seat and closed my eyes. $85,000 returning. Not because I'd shouted, threatened, or aired a single word online. Because I had receipts. Because Cole had organized them. Because Mitchell Farrow had transformed a kitchen table betrayal into a precise legal instrument. Do I need to see them? No, everything's handled through my office. They sign there, you sign here. No face-to-face required. Good. I signed the agreement the following Tuesday. Quiet room, steady pen, my name on a line that carried real weight this time. Cole waited in the lobby, flipping through a Field and Stream. When he emerged, he looked up. Done? Done. He stood, dropped the magazine on the chair, and held the door for me. We drove home with windows down, radio murmuring something neither of us truly heard. The silence of a thing completed was enough. I hadn't needed their house. I'd needed them to acknowledge what I'd given. Now, in black and white, sealed and notarized, they had. That mattered more than any deed. Mom stopped attending First Baptist for 2 months. In Mon Hills, that's the social equivalent of resignation. Sunday mornings there weren't just worship, they were the town's scoreboard. Janet Mosley had occupied the front pew for 25 years, welcome committee chair, first to arrive, last to leave, organizer of every potluck, bake sale, and holiday pageant. After the wedding, she vanished. The front pew stayed empty. When she finally returned in August, she slipped through the side door and sat alone in the third-to-last row. No one confronted her. This was Tennessee. Scenes were avoided, adjustments were made. Conversations shortened, invitations ceased. The casserole brigade that once arrived for any illness skipped the Mosley porch. Dad coped differently. He spent more hours in the garden, up at dawn, out until dusk, hands buried in soil as though trying to cultivate something he couldn't yet name. He called every 2 weeks, calls never longer than 5 minutes. How's the clinic? Busy. Good. Busy. Cole doing okay? He's great, Dad. Good. That's good. Awkward, stilted, consistent. Every other Sunday, like clockwork. Belle moved to Nashville at the end of July, packed in a weekend and left without a farewell dinner. No call to Mom, none to Dad, none to me. When nothing remained to claim, Belle departed. I believe that realization wounded my mother more than the wedding, the lawyer letter, or the town's quiet verdict. The daughter she'd chosen, the golden child around whom she'd built her identity, had never intended to stay. She'd only ever been there for the house. In September, Cole found our place, a 2-bedroom fixer-upper on Ridgeline Road, just beyond the county line. Overgrown yard, peeling siding, kitchen frozen in the 80s. The price was low enough to raise an eyebrow. It's got good bones, Cole said, standing in the driveway, hands on hips, squinting at the roofline as though sketching plans already. It's got a raccoon in the attic. I'll negotiate with the raccoon. We bought it. Cash from the first settlement payments, plus our savings. Both names on the deed, side by side, permanent ink. Cole renovated himself, evenings and weekends, 1 room at a time. New floors, new countertops, rebuilt porch. I planted a vegetable garden along the south fence. Tomatoes, peppers, herbs, something living and growing that belonged only to us. Kenna came most Saturdays with wine and gossip. She'd sit on the porch while Cole cut trim in the garage and I set basil seedlings, the 3 of us wrapped in simple, ordinary perfection. In October, a birthday card arrived. No return address, but the handwriting was unmistakable. Dad's. I opened it at the kitchen table. Drugstore card, cartoon cake on front. Inside, careful ballpoint. Happy birthday, kiddo. Proud of you. No note from Mom, just Dad. I held it a long time. Then I walked to our refrigerator in our house and placed it front and center, eye level. No church calendar obscuring it. No one else's photos crowding it out. For the first time in 29 years, my name was the first thing visible on a refrigerator door. I don't hate my parents. That might surprise some of you after everything I've shared. but hate demands energy I'd rather invest in things that grow. What I do hate is the version of myself at 27 who sat at that kitchen table and handed over an $85,000 cashier's check without requesting a single sheet of paper in return. The girl who believed love and trust were identical. They aren't. Love is a feeling, trust is a contract, and every contract requires clear terms. My mother exploited a promise she never meant to honor. My sister crafted a lie so persuasive it turned my parents against the finest man I've ever known. And my father, the one who taught me to ride a bike and bait a hook, stood silent in a black suit at my wedding. But here's what I've learned, and I'm telling you because I wish someone had told me 10 years earlier. Loving someone doesn't mean handing them a blank check, financial or emotional. There are still nights I lie awake and the images return. Mom at the microphone, Belle's knowing smile, the pen resting on the table, 150 faces witnessing my lowest moment. Those pictures don't vanish. I don't believe they're meant to. They're no longer open wounds. They're scar tissue, quietly reminding me where my boundary lies. Yet every morning, I step through my own front door, a door I helped pay for, attached to a house bearing my name on the deed, and I remember, I chose myself. I chose the man who stood when everyone else remained seated, and I make that choice again every single day. Thanksgiving came 6 months after the wedding. Cole and I hosted in our house, our kitchen, at our table, a second-hand oak he'd refinished with 3 coats of polyurethane, sanded until it gleamed smooth enough to write on. Kenna joined us along with a few clinic friends, 2 of Cole's Knoxville cousins, a 7-pound turkey, cornbread dressing, and Cole's sweet potato casserole from his grandmother's secret recipe, one he'll carry to his grave before sharing. We'd just sat down when my phone buzzed. I nearly ignored it. Then I saw Dad's name. I stepped into the hallway. "Hey, kiddo." "Hey, Dad." A long pause, the kind that lets you hear someone swallow. "Your mom isn't ready yet, but can I come by? Just for an hour?" I glanced through the doorway at Cole. He read my face, raised an eyebrow in quiet question. I held up the phone and mouthed his name. Cole nodded once. "Bring pie, Bobby," he called, loud enough for the receiver to catch it. Dad arrived 40 minutes later with a store-bought pecan pie and shoes too clean for a man who gardened every morning. He stood on the porch as though uncertain this was the right address. He ate turkey, complimented the dressing, asked Cole about the porch railing, and actually listened to the answer. Before leaving, he hugged me, both arms firm, the kind of embrace that says everything a man like Bobby Mosley struggles to voice. I didn't say, "I forgive you." Not yet. That word is too vast to hurry. But I opened the door. For now, that's enough. If you're watching and you're in a family where your worth is measured by how much you're willing to surrender, hear this. You're allowed to stop. You're allowed to love someone and still say no. You're allowed to care for your parents and still protect yourself. You're allowed to walk away from a table where you're only welcome when you're serving. Setting a boundary isn't betrayal. It isn't selfishness. It isn't ingratitude. What is betrayal, what is true betrayal, is sitting in silence while the people meant to shield you are the ones inflicting the harm. That's the betrayal you commit against yourself. My mother hasn't called since the day in the lawyer's office. She may one day, she may not. That's her path, and I can't walk it for her. My father calls every other Sunday. 5 minutes, awkward, steady. He's trying, I see it. My sister is somewhere in Nashville. I don't know what she's doing, I don't look. The thread between us was severed cleanly, and I've stopped searching for the other end. The night before our wedding, Cole and I loaded the car with centerpieces and a cooler of sweet tea. Cole said something I carry with me always. You don't have to shout to be heard. You just have to stand still and let the truth speak. I'm Wanda. I'm 29. This is my house. No one else's name on the deed. Boundaries aren't walls, they're doors. You simply get to decide who passes through, and for the first time in my life, I'm the one holding the key. That's my story. If it echoed something you've endured or something you're still enduring, please leave a comment. I read everyone, and I promise, you are not alone. If you know someone who needs these words today, share this with them. Sometimes a single story is enough to help someone realize they're allowed to stand up. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. I've linked another story in the description that I think you'll want to hear, about a woman whose family tried to erase her from a will. She refused to let them. Thank you for being here. See you in the next one.